Hello there. All right, Cathy.
All right, Wayne.
Welcome along to Outdoor Gear Chat. This is the first of our chats about outdoor gear, I guess.
Yeah.
The easy way. It's the easy way to describe it. So, who are you? Where are you from?
Oh,
Just for our listeners.
yeah. My name is Cathy, and I am one of the owners and directors of the Joe Brown shops in Snowdonia and the Climber shop in Ambleside.
And I'm Wayne. I struggled with this beforehand, but who am I? I'm a trainee mountain leader. I know a lot of people don't like this phrase, but I'm a running guide. I say I'm a running guide. I am an athletics coach and a coach in running fitness. I do guided runs, holidays and stuff. And we were just saying that we actually met in the wake of Storm Desmond when a bunch of us, outdoor enthusiasts met up to raise money for Cumbria, really, wasn't it? Through a
We
Grande
did,
Alley
yeah.
thing.
It was after the 2015 floods that were just still unbelievable. You know, I still kind of look across Keswick and just can't believe all of that land was actually water.
Yeah. And the trees that were in Fitz Park, was it Fitz Park? Yeah, Crow Park and stuff that's just been carried down. Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Again, and we're still suffering with the aftermath of that. And anyway, we're not here to talk about that, unfortunately, or we might come back to that another time. That's where we met. And I think our what's the word? Our relationship was cemented at Trail 60 by Brave when we were just stood there entertaining each other all day long. I think, weren't we? It was
Yeah, waiting for all those hardy runners to come back over the line after 60 kilometres of pounding the fells. And of course, luckily, it wasn't very wet that day. It was quite dry. But we are here today to talk about waterproofs. And I'm wet to my undies.
I like your style there. Just ease that in nicely. So I'm wet to my undies. Yeah, and it's the sort of particularly the days I think of where you could do with a change of pants.
Yeah.
And how do you avoid, or are there any things that you can do to avoid being wet to your undies?
Well, the good news is there's tons.
Yeah.
But we have all been there, and it's there's nothing more miserable. You're absolutely soaked. You can't find anywhere dry on your body, and it's not so much a problem when you're going back to a lovely warm house or accommodation. But if you're out backpacking, it can be just unbelievably miserable. Or in fact, I did there's a 100-mile backpacking loop from the Ambleside shop, and I did that in 2019. And I rocked up in Borrowdale because the weather was horrendous, so I decided to have a night in the valley, and stood dripping in the middle of June on Midsummer's Eve in the porch of a lady farmer and asked her for a night's summer camping. And she just looked at me and leaned in closely and said, "I do have a lovely B&B room if you would prefer."
Really?
I just must look that wet. But it was fine. You know, I had my tent and spent a sleepless night being buffeted by the wind, even in the valley, and the rain, and got up the next morning with my slightly less damp clothing because I dried it in my sleeping bag next to me, and off I went. But the good news is that there are days when you can stay dry. There are some days where you can't stay dry. Jackets are designed with a great big hole at the top for your neck. They've got 2 small holes around your wrists, and a giant hole at the bottom for the rest of your body. So there's lots of places for water to get in. But even though you've maybe spent a lot of money on your fantastic all singing, all dancing waterproof jacket, even though water can get in, there's lots you can do to keep it out. And sometimes it's not actually your jacket leaking that is
causing
making
the
you
dampness.
feel wet.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's you leaking that's causing the wetness.
It
is that basically? Yeah, I know that was a revelation. It took me ages to figure that out. It's like, particularly running, doing a lot of running on that, and endurance running. I know, like, you've done your share of that as well. But yeah, this jacket is amazing. Why am I so wet? And well, of course, you're sweating, aren't you? Particularly carrying a pack. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much science goes into these jackets, and the key thing is, you know, you've got this expensive scientific jacket, but it's actually up to you to manage your moisture, for want of a better word, inside, and how your sweat moves. But there's 3 different types of waterproof jackets. We're going to get a little bit nerdy here.
Go on then, geek me up,
because
geek me up.
you've
I love you.
you've got
I love, this is going to be one of those as well. I love your little face. You've got a little gleam in your eye as well. You're like, it's appealing to you're in a nerd, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've got coatings first, and they tend to be at the lower end of the scary price scale. And coatings can work really well because they're quite cheap to apply. And that'll be on the inside of your jacket, because the most waterproof part of your jacket is not the coloured fabric that you can see on the outside. That's there to protect the waterproof coating or laminate. So your coating, they have kind of, the downsides of a coating is it's very difficult to get it even, and we're talking down to micron level here. So there's not as far as the laboratory is concerned, there may not be a complete, the breathability may not be the same all the way across the fabric, but as I say, it's down to microns in a laboratory, so it's not something you probably feel out and about. But coatings tend to be slightly less breathable than laminates, and we've all heard of Gore-Tex. That's probably one of the most famous laminates. There are other laminates out there. There's Sympatex, there's Membrane, there's Event, there's some fantastic ones. Now, the laminates themselves, again, they are often, they're sandwiched inside the jacket, so you can't see them. Made from polytetrafluoroethylene, which is, if you imagine a white paper bag, a plastic bag, and you push your finger through that little kind of bit that's left, stretched bit that's left on the top of your finger, that's what PTFE is.
Right.
It's like. So it's very, very delicate. And it has a unique quality. It was designed for space travel, for spacesuits, but it's got 9 billion pores per square inch, and this is what allows it to breathe. And each of those pores is 20,000 times smaller than a droplet of water liquid or rain, but it's 700 times larger than a droplet of water vapor or your sweat. So if you have the correct clothing underneath that allows the sweat essentially to transfer from your skin through the fabrics and then out to the Gore-Tex layer, it will just disappear out into the environment. So you've got this kind of warm, moist air inside your jacket that will naturally travel towards the colder, relatively drier air outside in your environment.
Okay. And then, I know layering is one that we're going to come on to next, actually, isn't it?
Oh, we're going to come on to the joy of moisture management.
Yeah, the next podcast will be on that subject. But so, I'm struggling with some of the concept of why is it gonna go out? Why would it? Does it just get sucked out through those layers then? And is
it just wants to, it just wants to move out. The warm air wants to move out or the warm moist air wants to move out to the colder, drier air. So when you've got that sort of big temperature differentiation between the inside and your outside of your jacket, it's going to breathe a lot more efficiently. And actually that's how directional waterproof clothing works. That's the third different type. You've got coating, you've got waterproof, you've got directional. So that's products like Buffalo, if you remember the grand old Buffalo days, and more recently the Paramo products.
Right.
So they just work. It's on basically the same process as animal fur, and it just pushes all of that sweat out into the environment to keep you dry. But the sort of breathability element is a very key point. But also you've got the waterproof element.
Yeah.
And the waterproof element is there to physically stop the water coming in to you, and that can be measured again in a lab. And we have lots of customers coming in saying, what's the hydrostatic head of this jacket?
I never get that. I was saying I used to work in a shop that just down the road from you in Ambleside, but and people used to ask me about that, and I've got I don't know, but it'll keep you dry. We always used to be like, will it keep me dry on the fells in the worst possible imaginable conditions? And you'd be like, yeah, well, yeah. Or no, that one's not going to do it. But sorry, anyway, what is it? Go on, give us the tech gubbins.
Well, the hydrostatic head measures the waterproofness of a given disc of fabric under pressure. So it's a really relevant test of waterproofness if you're looking at a complete piece of fabric. So for a tent ground sheet or a tent fly sheet, it's fantastic. It'll tell you exactly how much pressure of water that fabric will keep out. If you imagine that fabric is then chopped up into small pieces and tailored beautifully to fit around your body, it's seamed together. And it's shaped. There's going to be areas where it wears more. The wear of the jacket is going to be very different. But quite simply, by chopping up all of that fabric and building a three-dimensional garment to fit around us, the hydrostatic head measurement becomes less relevant, because it's telling you just how much water the fabric will keep out, but not the design of what the fabric's been turned into. So if Mountain Equipment actually have a super page on their website explaining how they make their garments waterproof by design.
Right. And that's where stuff like the failure of a particular garment might actually be through seams, and that's when we get into particular events talking about you must have a jacket with taped seams for that, or it's almost seamless because of the way it's been bonding together. Is that?
They can, seams can be welded, seams can be sewn, they can be taped, and it's what makes your jacket fit around you, and it dictates the features on your jacket as well, because you might want a lighter close fitting jacket if you're hooning around the fells at some huge speed. You might want a more generous fitting jacket if you're out in all weathers mountaineering, for example. You still don't want loads of fabric flapping around, but if you want to layer up underneath it, then you need a jacket that allows for that, or you might want to go for a bigger size. It depends on your personal body shape. With the seaming, of course, when you start adding zips into jackets, when you start adding hoods, 25% of the cost of a jacket can just simply be the hood, because there's so much sculpting in one. It's a critical part of a jacket, particularly if you are wanting one to go out in all weathers. And then, of course, you've got venting. So if you've got pit zips, for example, if you've got pockets, adjustments, all of these extra bits and pieces go into making your jacket unique for the activities that you want it to do. But they're all potential elements where they change, how a fabric works, and it becomes a garment that you're talking about, and how that garment protects you from the weather.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's the whole, and as you've described a couple of times, there is the whole fit for purpose thing, isn't there? Because I know I've got flipping heck. I wouldn't like to tell you how many different jackets I've got from different brands as well. But two in particular, I think actually I might have got one from yourselves years ago. And I think it must be 15 plus years old now. Is an amazing big heavy Berghaus jacket that came with a fleece inside. So, but that it's still my go-to fell jacket, my mountain jacket now, because it's just a bit sturdier, it's a bit heavier, and I do get a bit more sweaty inside, but flipping heck, it protects me from the elements. And then on the flip side, I've got and at the time I was like, oh, do I want to spend nearly 200 quid on this jacket? And I absolutely do now. And then I've got a super lightweight. It's one of the first, I think, Gore-Tex Berghaus jackets that came out, a really lightweight running jacket. And I actually found, again, it was a ridiculous amount of money. I think it was nearly 300 quid. And I was like, well, do I want to buy this? And I thought, well, it's going to last me a while. There was a good warranty on it and stuff anyway. And I noticed the other day a photograph popped up. Facebook's brilliant for this, isn't it? Facebook memories. Yeah. And I was wearing it 12 years ago. I think it was in this
Wow.
photograph, and I was just like, I was like, I just thinking the other day, oh, this, the jacket's looking a bit threadbare now, and because
Yeah.
I've done all sorts of running in it, it's been, and rucksacks over the top, heavy rucksacks as well as light fast packs and stuff like that. But yeah, that's my go-to running jacket still, and with treatment and so on, they've both survived. And that's one of the questions I think that I definitely wanted to ask you as well, as far as regular treatment or reproofing and stuff like that is essential, isn't it, with kit? And how often should we be doing that? Do you know?
Well, it's really good that you mentioned your old jacket as well here, because it's really important to explaining why these days you need to wash and maintain your jacket a lot more frequently than your jacket that you would have bought 15 years ago. And this is obviously, we'll talk about Gore-Tex here as a case in point. But your old, brilliant, huge, heavy, zip yourself in, nothing's coming in feel of jacket, as you say, is a bit more sweatier. But back in the day, to protect the Gore-Tex or the DWR coating on the outside, I'm just going to take a step back here and just describe what DWR is, because on the outside of your jacket, as I said, that's the coloured fabric is there to protect the Gore-Tex laminate. And what that has to help the breathability and to help that moisture come through the Gore-Tex is it has a DWR coating, and that stands for durable water repellency. What that means is if your jacket's new and you go outside in the rain, you'll be able to look down and you'll see lots of little beads on your jacket. So just like, again, a plastic bag, if you took that out in the rain, you see all the beads come and they just run off, dribble off your jacket. And that means your jacket is working and breathing to its optimum level when you can see your jacket beading like that. Abrasion, oils, contaminants like sun lotion, mosquito repellent, things like that, all break down your DWR coating. So that needs to be replenished. In the old days, that DW coating had all sorts of environmental horrors in it to maintain that DWR coating for as long as possible. I won't go into the science because you end up disappearing off down a lab coat bearded avenue.
Yeah.
But Greenpeace actually took Gore-Tex to task over the chemicals that were involved in that DWR coating or prevalent in that DWR coating, quite rightly, because they are not environmentally sound. So Gore have been spending a lot of time and effort to take them out, which they've done successfully. So what they've had to remove is the oleophobic element, so the oil hating element of that chemical coating. So on your Gore-Tex jacket today, there's still a chemical coating. It's much more environmentally sound, but it does wear out much more quickly through abrasion and everything else. So the days of just using your jacket, your Gore-Tex jacket, and stuffing it away and forgetting about it are gone. What you do need to do is absolutely wash your jacket more frequently. And you need to tumble dry your jacket more frequently, because the heat from your tumble dryer boosts that DWR. So it's not that it's gone, it's just it needs replenishing. And then also you can use other reproofing agents as well. And they will help down the line. So I was asked the other day by a customer, another, a guide, how long should my Gore-Tex jacket last? And as long as you maintain it, it will last that same sort of number of 15 years plus. It does depend on how much you use it, I have to say. It's not going to last you for your lifetime, it lasts for the jacket's lifetime. But absolutely, today, yes, you need to clean your jacket more, you need to tumble dry your jacket more, and you need to maintain your jacket more. And by keeping these garments working as long as possible, that reduces their carbon footprint eventually. If you're buying a jacket and after 2 years, I've had enough of that, I don't like the colour, whatever, I'm going to change it. That's far less environmentally sound than just keeping it, maintaining it, and then eventually, because Gore-Tex is utterly inert, it won't break down. Once that's in landfill, that's there. Right. So the less frequently we can send our expensive outdoor clothing, whether it's laminate, whether it's coating, whether it's directional waterproofs. The longer we can keep stuff like that out of landfill, the better.
Well, and I got a little bit upset when you were saying that as well. I'm like, I never want to get rid of that jacket. The memories that are within it, the adventures we've had together, it really is.
Yeah.
It's like, it's part of my family now. That is part of me. It's like, yeah. But I just want to go back to washing jackets though, because you mentioned that a couple of times there. And what do you mean? What do you mean by that for the amateur? Like he said, pointing at himself. What do you mean by that? Do you wash
the amateur washer?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you wash it in powder, or do you wash it just in water, or?
No, you do need to. Modern powders and modern washing liquids often have a fabric conditioner, added into them, which isn't always easy to spot on the packaging. So best not to use that. We do have free care leaflets in all of our shops available to customers, explaining exactly what you need to do, and the Nikwax and the Granger's products that are developed specifically for this. And a lot of those are water-based, so they're environmentally friendly as well these days. That is also downloadable from the blog on our website as well. And we also give out the leaflets free with any item of waterproof clothing that we sell. But essentially all that information is in those brochures there, and the Nikwax or the Granger's products that are made specifically are the best definitely to use to ensure that other sort of chemicals like fabric conditioners will just strip the DWR coating. So that's what you don't want to happen.
Yeah, it'll have the opposite effect to the one. Yeah, and then
I mean, you can replenish it. It's just more effort.
Yeah, and then tumble drying. Yeah, it's the similar sort of principle, isn't it? Yeah, there's instructions on the leaflets that you've got, but you don't want it.
Yeah, tumble drying. Definitely refer to the manufacturer's label on the inside of the jacket, because that'll tell you the temperature. So in fact, the label on the inside of your garment is a very important thing. That tells you what fabric is or what textiles are used in the makeup of your jacket, and that determines the temperature that you can tumble dry your garment on.
Yeah, awesome. And then we spent loads of time talking about jackets there, and I do want to put the hood element for me is where my jacket always fails, because I hate having my jacket up over my head, particularly when I'm running. It does my head in. Hang on a minute, sorry, I've just knocked my headphones off me. But so that's always the thing. The water just comes down my neck, so they are designed to be waterproof with the hood up, essentially, aren't they?
Very definitely. Yeah. But I mean, there's days where, I mean, yesterday we were out. It was appalling weather yesterday. We were out running yesterday, and it was, if your head isn't getting red of your sweat fast enough, you do need to pull your hood down, because that's just going to stay there. So the best thing to do there is just to pop a buff around your neck, and that'll sort of stop the water going in. But it's never an easy one. It's always a balance between staying comfortable from sweat buildup, and obviously running, you've no choice. If you're moving fast, then you're just going to be creating more. If you've got sweat on your brow, for example, your skin can't get rid of it, so your clothing's got absolutely no chance. So it's always a careful balance. It's something that's much easier to control when you're walking, because you can, and specifically mountaineering as well, where you do need to just adjust your pace. Actually, just going a bit slower during the day can make a big difference to being dry at the end of it.
And with trousers, I guess just exactly the same principle. Waterproof trousers is just there's no difference there.
Exactly the same. And just using trousers or leg coverings underneath that will allow moisture through as well. The minute you put and we'll touch on this more in the next podcast, but the minute you start putting cotton into the equation, which is a lovely natural fabric next to the skin, but it does hold on to water.
I have had a few horror stories to tell there from my early days of running, which the anecdotes will come back to, flipping heck.
And the other thing, of course, is to make sure you put your waterproofs on when it starts raining. And I think my first ultra event, I threw it. I can still remember the decision now. It was the stupidest decision I've made. Yeah, I threw like 30 years worth of walking experience and staying dry experience out the window because I was in a event and I was running, and ended up not putting my waterproofs on until far too late. I got probably the most dangerously wet and cold I've been, and I had to stop and have a firm talking to myself. And by that point, I was trying to climb into my waterproof trousers, and they were flying around and slapping me in the face because the wind was so bad.
Well, and that's an important note, actually, that I just the waterproof effect of some of the clothing that's designed to be, sorry, the windproof effect of some of the waterproofs as well. That's because I've had days where I've been out walking on the fells, and that the cold air is just coming through you, and there's a danger of hypothermia. But yeah, the waterproof trousers will do that for you as well. But how does that work? Is it the same? I guess the same principle that doesn't allow the water in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, you do have some waterproof laminates that are air permeable and waterproof laminates that aren't. So, for example, Gore-Tex will not allow air through, but Event, I think that's the right one. That one is air permeable.
Right.
So what that means is sometimes you'll feel more comfortable with all the wind kept out, and sometimes you'll feel more comfortable with some of the wind coming through.
Yeah.
But essentially, you do need to keep the wind off of you, because obviously you will lose heat through convection very, very, very quickly. If you've just got a waterproof on bare skin, for example, you'll be able to feel that. You'll feel the heat literally being leached out of your skin and out through the fabric. But your windproofs do play a major part as a barrier to wind as well, and they will it's all part of your armory, if you like. Your movable armory of keeping the elements out.
And then what's it does I think you answered this earlier with the hydrostatic head thing, but what's the difference? Well, yeah, I guess, what's the difference between showerproof and waterproof?
Yeah, showerproof and waterproof, and water resistant is another word that you see bandied around a lot. But that's down to a measurement, if you like. There's no industry standard here, by the way. And there are marketing departments of some less technical companies that will talk about waterproof garments, and they're not, just because the fabric doesn't keep out water. You'll find water resistant and jackets have they'll keep you dry in a shower, definitely. And if you're just going out for a bit of a stroll, and your decision for that day is like, well, if it rains, I'm just going to come home, water resistant is absolutely fine. It'll probably be more breathable, and a breathable waterproof is always better than a non-breathable waterproof. So sometimes a water resistant jacket is a better option, just because of that breathability, but it will keep out the wind, for example. So that will give you two elements while you're out and about. But it's a case of understanding what that garment can do for you and adapting it. And sometimes it takes a while to learn that. And a waterproof garment in the meantime means that if you're out and about, water cannot physically penetrate that garment. If you come into either of our shops, we don't sell water resistant clothing. We do sell windproofs, and some of those windproofs might have a little bit of a PU coating to strengthen the fabric, so they will keep out a light shower, and we'll talk that through with customers when they come in, and we'll talk about, this will keep out a light shower, this is gonna keep out water, and this is waterproof. So we will differentiate between the two. Difficulty is marketing departments don't always like to do that, and as I said, there's some less technical marketing departments that haven't quite got their terminology correct, and it can just be really confusing. So it's really important customers do know the difference, and ask us and talk to us, and when they're in the shops, come and have a chat. and we can talk it through. Honestly, we've spent years getting wet and miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our job,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
sharing the knowledge so you don't have to, or you don't have to as much as frequently.
And I guess that yeah, that's part of the point for me, isn't it? Is that you need to know what you're going to use the jacket for, or and what conditions you're going to be using that in. Whether it is whether it is you're going to be doing at the bottom of a cliff, looking up at your mate who's climbing, or you're going to be running fast over the fells, for example, with a rucksack on or something like that. Is it's all very, very different pieces of kit, isn't it? They're gonna have different properties, and like you were saying, this last bank holiday weekend, we're recording this on the Tuesday after the May Day bank holiday weekend. It's just been horrendous, hasn't it? It's been literally the rain's been sheeting it down. But that's standard summer day in the Lake District is very, very different from a And I was going to say a day on the Downs or something, isn't it?
Cumbrian liquid sunshine.
Yeah.
And actually, Cumbrian liquid sunshine is a mere suggestion of rain compared to Welsh liquid sunshine, which every time I go to visit the shops in Wales, I'm like, oh yeah, the Lakes does rain, but Wales does it properly.
I'm just reflecting now. I'm not sure I've ever been down in the mountains in Wales when it's properly rained. I think.
Yeah, well, our shop at Capel Curig is unofficially the wettest place in the country.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I know. I have been very lucky to be. No, it's not. I've been up Snowdon every time. It's been stunning. It's been absolutely stunning. But I've just tempted fate now, haven't I? Yeah, the next time it'll be horrendous. Always been on amazing charity events.
Yeah. I used to do it twice a week for work, and it was plenty of miserable experiences.
Awful times. Yeah. So yeah, have we got through all with the things we wanted to talk about today on I'm Wet to My Undies?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, one fascinating fact, just going back to sustainability and why we still consider using products like Gore-Tex if they are so environmentally unfriendly, as in they're never going to degrade, and there's all of these chemical treatments involved in them. It is important to state that outdoor clothing by manufacture is not environmentally friendly, generally speaking. If we wanted to go back to the most environmentally friendly biodegradable waterproofs, we'd go back to the traditional Arctic peoples making their waterproofs out of dried seal and whale intestines and gluing them together with animal glues. And if you go to the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford, there's a garment there that you can look at, and it's one of these, and it's amazing. It's incredible. But how many seals and whales you have to kill for one jacket does not make that sustainable either. So if we want to go out, if we want to enjoy ourselves in the hills in horrendous weather, then we need to use waterproof clothing and make sure that we do work with our suppliers. I mean, we work with our suppliers. We've got companies like RAB that have pledged to become carbon neutral by 2030. We're trying to, by sort of doing these podcasts, educate customers just to explain it's a slow process, but companies, our suppliers and their fabricant suppliers are working not just with environmental sustainability in mind, but also social sustainability, working conditions. It's really important to understand part of that cost of the garment that you're looking at buying is the good working conditions of the people that have been making those in whichever country that may have been made in.
Yeah. And that, I think you've mentioned a couple of times as well, the point of this for me is prolonging the life of our outdoor kit.
Yeah.
So it's not just, we're not just disposing of it and chucking it into landfill after 2 years. Jackets should be lasting. I come back to my example there of 15 years, or some of the, like Buffalo that you mentioned. They've got everyone who possesses an item of that is just, they just rave and go, I'm never ever parting with it. It's just I'm devastated when it gets melted over a campfire or whatever, some of the ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like,
We've got bags of stuff in our loft we can't get rid of. I've got my original made in Britain Phoenix Gore-Tex jacket made in Northumberland, and it's been reduced to lambing now if we've been helping friends on the farm. But I'm like, I'm never getting rid of it.
No, exactly. Because again, and it's got all those memories in it, hasn't it? All those things tied up. Yeah, it's really So yeah, we said we'd do a shameless plug at the end.
Oh, absolutely, because Wayne, you are going to be wet through to your undies by choice. When is your swim along Windermere?
It's not. It's too close now. So I'm swimming Windermere one way in August, at the end of August, 28th of August, I think it is. In aid of to raise money for the Brave Day Trust, which we've both got an affinity to for all sorts of reasons. They lured me in as a customer many moons ago, and I now do the finish line MC for the Windermere Marathon. But anyway, so if you have enjoyed what we've been on about today, if you've learned something and you'd like to donate a few quid to a local charity, a local to us charity anyway, we'll stick the link on the podcast. But it's I'm swimming the Windermere one way, and that'll take you to my Just Giving page. And for future ones, we'll have a PayPal link, won't we, which will donate directly to Brave Day, whereas mine will go through, it'll go through Just Giving to start with, and then on to Brave Day. And if you do, I was going to say, if you'd like to see me in my wet undies, probably not the right thing to say, is it? I have got some YouTube videos of it. No, there's some professional ones, saying what I'm.
Do they have an advisory, Wayne?
They don't. I have been told they do need some. They do need one, actually, just because a middle-aged man in his swimming jammers doesn't go down well with some markets, apparently. But,
so can you just remind us of the distance and how long you're going to be in the water doing this challenge?
No, because it makes me feel sick every time I talk about it. It's 10 to 11 miles is the distance. So so when it's from Fellfoot down, I'm pointing down that way. I don't know why I'm pointing down that way. No, but because it's completely different from where everyone is.
It works really well on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't work well for you and I, let alone a podcast. But from Fellfoot and finishes at Brave Day, the Brave Day Trust up at Ambleside. So training is going. I was going to say going well. It's not. It's going. I'm happy with that. And now I can actually get in a lake and potentially get in a pool after lockdown. It's going better than doing the land-based stuff, which it was just awful. We're talking.
Oh, that's just weird. Land-based training for swimming.
Well, it's just like Turbo Trainer, isn't it? But worse. It's just two massive elastic bands. I have been asked to do a demonstration video of what it's all about, which I will do actually. But me and my underpants is I've got a load of stuff on YouTube which is sort of document. No, it's not like that. It's not like that. It's documenting my swims from about December of 2020 when we were just going and doing dips, and it was just awful. It was really cold, and then right the way through, and then Ian Wood, a good mate of mine who does videography and photography, has been producing snippets of film explaining why I'm doing it, why we swim the way we do, and ultimately, I'm going to say this on this as well, is ultimately it is I want, my aim is to swim the channel.
Nice.
But there's a bunch of sort of prerequisites I have to go through to be able to get there. So there's still a little bit that mean that might not happen, but swimming Windermere is one of the qualifiers. So that you need to swim Windermere to be able to, as a qualifier, to swim the channel.
Fantastic. You heard it here.
So anyway, exactly. Yeah, it's Scott. Well, Scott from Brave Day's already lured me in saying, well, if you need a charity to support, I was like, yeah. So anyway, this has been Outdoor Gear Chat. I've been Wayne. You've been Cathy.
I've been Cathy. Yeah, you can find more details on our buyer's guides on our website at www.climbashop.com. And you can also find a world of knowledge about waterproofs and clothing at our website, www.joebrownoutdooracademy.com.
Awesome. And we'll be back next week with more for you.
See you then.